Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon, and this is the UFC Greenville / BKFC 6 / Bellator London review. A lot of fights, a lot of fights. And with me is my partner in crime, my Batman to my Robin, Elijah Jones.
How you doing? How you doing?
Welcome back, man.
Hey, man, glad to be back. Glad to talk about something that's we both love here. UFC is mixed martial arts in general, one of the biggest loves of our lives. So, welcome to be back, man. It's my brother.
Got Earl in the background. So what's up, Earl?
He's not going to do that.
Man, so you didn't see the fights live, right?
I didn't see the fights live. No, not this time. I was unfortunately out. I was in Brooklyn. I was in Brooklyn hanging out at Greenpoint. If anyone's ever in Greenpoint, check it out. Something called the Brooklyn Barge.
Well, I unfortunately sat through all of UFC and the BKFC. I didn't see Bellator until this morning. But if I gotta say, UFC pretty much stole the night. A lot of interesting fights from the prelims and on.
Agreed.
Bellator had a pretty decent card. We're going to talk about that, of how they decided to do their card and show it. And the BKFC, as hyped up I was about the main event, the show sucked. So we're going to talk about all.
That's fair. All comments are okay.
Where do you want to start first?
Let's start with the UFC card. I think that's where we saw it. I guess that's what gets the most attention regardless.
Yeah, so the MVP of the night for me is Darren Wynn. Darren Wynn defeats Eric Spicely, unanimous decision. He has a lot of promise. A lot of promise.
Darren Wynn was one of those guys you've always seen in the Daniel Cormier videos on YouTube, or when you go to Daniel Cormier's gym, aka, and you see videos about their guys training. You always did see Darren Wynn in the back. So it's pretty interesting to see him being a middleweight and fighting. I think he recently retired from wrestling and has dedicated his life now to mixed martial arts.
Well, man, he doesn't look like a middleweight, man. He's very short but stocky.
Let's go ahead. Let me see. While you talk, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up some stats on my man.
So he's very short but stocky. Eric Spicely pretty much overtowered him. Seemed like.
But Spicely's also a longer. He's always a lankier guy for that middleweight division.
Yeah, but for me, it was just like, what else? What other middleweights are we going to see that's that size advantage against Darren Wynn? But that being said, his boxing was crisp, was really good. He was piecing up Eric Spicely. He didn't really go to the ground or take Eric Spicely down. He pretty much stand up with him, even though his expertise is wrestling. He did really good. He really did good, and then it really showed that we have more like the middleweight division.
Let's go ahead and take a guess at Darren Wynn's height.
Sure.
Take a guess.
I would say 5'6".
My man is 5'5".
Really? Okay.
And 185-pound division. I'm fully impressed.
Yeah.
No, he's 5'7". Sorry, he's 5'7". I take.
Oh, okay. All right.
They have him listed as 5'7". That is truly remarkable. Fighting guys who are basically 6 foot is the minimum for most middleweights.
Yeah.
6 foot, ridiculous. But I saw highlights of his fight and he's pretty impressive. Very impressive. Head movement was there. He was getting in on the inside, which is not the only thing he really can do. But he was able to make those adjustments against a very, very tall and lengthier fighter who has a little bit more experience than him. Eric Spicely is no joke as well. He's been fighting for quite some time.
Yeah, this is actually his first fight back. He made a statement saying that before this fight he had minus $250 left in the bank.
Yikes.
He was in a red. And then he won fight of the night.
Did he detail any reason as to why he took all that time off, or was it just to?
I think the UFC cut him. And then
he was on the outside. Yeah, I remember this. I do remember this.
He got a couple of wins on other promotions or whatever, and
they bring him back.
They brought him back late notice too. It was only maybe about 7 days notice.
Hey, he did it.
Because it turns out that Darren Wynn's other opponent had popped hot.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, that's the story. The tale of the tape now for most of these fighters. A lot of people are pissing hot.
Yeah, so he comes in late notice, and put on a great fight. Probably fight of the night for me. Definitely earned the nod for fight of the night. $50K, and
hey,
it was a great win for Darren Wynn because of the fact that he fights a guy big. You're probably gonna see more of that in the middleweight division for him.
Yeah.
And he was great with boxing, man. He went to the body, went upstairs. He hurt Spicy a couple of times in that fight. It was really good.
He did. Darren, what you showed was that this was a guy who had little to no MMA experience, but is able to showcase that with the right training, you can literally do whatever and implement a great game plan. That's what he's shown. Working with guys like Daniel Cormier, working with guys such as Cain Velasquez and other people. You can, if you train hard with those guys, you're able to hang around with some of the best. You can definitely take in a division, such as a stacked division at 185. You have some absolute killers at 185. Yeah. Even when you think people aren't the best, they are at their best. So I'm pretty proud for Darwin. Shout out to him. Shout out to a brother.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely going to be looking out for Darren Wynn. I definitely think his promise in the middleweight division. Again, he's not the biggest guy, but the talents that he has pretty much makes up for it. So I'm really excited to see what he does.
I'm excited for him too.
Going to the main card, the main card was solid too.
Main card was solid. You know who was actually interested in fighting on this fight? You saw Andrea Lee. Outside of all the things that she had been dealing with her, I believe that's KGB, no?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's dealing with her husband who had recently turned himself in and all this other stuff. She said it wasn't her best fight. Understandable, but I think she put on a decent performance. I think
she looked really good.
She did.
She looked really good. I have the notes here. They're just me taking it down during the fight, and Angela Lee had pretty much dominated Montella De La Rosa.
She did. Outlanded, outstriking. I mean, it was a very, very, very technical fight on her part, and not taking anything away from Montana De La Rosa, but Andrea definitely she showcased why she is one of the best in her division.
Yeah, and for me, it's the fact that all this stuff going on with Andrea Lee and divorcing her husband, and the husband's on the run, and she talks about she had kids, and this whole big storm. She looked better than she ever did.
She truly did. She did. But it's one of those things where athletes are their own biggest critics, so I understand that. But I think she put on a solid performance. I think she only gets better from here.
And then Kevin Holland.
Yes.
Andrea Lee. Let's go back to Andrea Lee beats Montella De La Rosa by unanimous decision.
Yes.
Flyweight division, and then Kevin Holland beats. I can't pronounce his name. Let's give it a try.
Kevin Holland, Alessio De Chirico.
That sounds good. That sounds good, man.
He was. It was a good fight. That's also a good fight. Kevin Holland. He's starting to show a lot of promise. He's a very good prospect that UFC can get behind. Kevin Holland's a solid fighter at middleweight. He is very solid. He's 6'3". He has the range. He has the length. He's fighting out of California. Yep. I see only the best for this man, and he beat. In his last, he's had 4 fights, maybe one on Dana White's Contender Series, which he won. Yeah. He lost to Thiago Santos. That's also understandable because Thiago Santos is a killer. And then he's won his last 3. One against Gerard Mearshart, who trains with, if I'm not mistaken, he trains with my brother's favorite fighter, Tyron Woodley. So.
You just can't wait to get a Tyron Woodley shout out.
I got to listen, man. Tyron Woodley's the man. He's the man. He did a lot. Very proud of that guy. But back to Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland, I'm impressed. I will say that. I'm very impressed at what I've seen.
And what stood out for me, so in the first round he came in hot, and then he went for the clinch, which he talked about he wasn't going to do that. He's going to go stand in front of the guy and trade with them. That didn't happen, so he pretty much faked him out. Mm-hmm. And then the second round, he hurts his arm. I think it said it popped out of his shoulder. And he finishes the fight.
But it's the adjustments. Again, this guy is no joke. I mean, he had the trouble. It was the arm or was it the shoulder? Was it the shoulder?
I think it was the arm.
Yikes. Big yikes.
Still
won. I mean,
still won, yeah.
The only other fight I know like this was who broke their arm? against Chuck Liddell, I believe.
I don't know.
He's a middleweight. He lost to Anderson Silva twice. You know, Rich Franklin.
There we go.
Broke his arm.
Got it.
You did get it. Rich Franklin broke his arm mid-fight, somewhere around mid-fight, and then was able to still finish the fight and won. Eventually, I think he knocked out Chuck Liddell in that fight. And we're talking Rich Franklin towards like the middle at the end of his career. This wasn't the Rich Franklin that was starching dudes like Sean. It was a great fight. But Kevin Holland, again, shouts out to these guys. He had his arm or shoulder, whatever it was probably messed up. And I saw it. Like, you saw the actual adjustment made, and he kept the game plan, kept smart, kept composed, and was able to still beat DiCirico. So I'm proud of him. Another good fight. Another good fight. This is what we get with these fights. But I do want to say DiCirico hit him with a mean elbow.
He did.
I mean,
check this out for me. Let me see the UFC stats on the fight. Cause I think in that fight, even with a hurt arm, he outstruck Chirico. If I'm not mistaken.
Well, yes, he did.
He did. Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up the fight stats now. Right. It looks like, so they definitely called it. Sal D'Amato, Chris Lee, and Kevin James were the judges. They called it 29-28, 29-28, 29-28 for the winner, with Kevin Holland by unanimous decision, right? Now, when we come to significant strikes, overall, Kevin landed 58 out of 117, while Alessio landed 51 out of 84. So it looks like they were pretty close with each other in terms of actual significant strikes, but the total strikes landed between these gentlemen was a lot different. You saw 192 to 62. And don't get me wrong, Kevin Holland had the bigger volume in these in terms of the strikes. However, he did land more often, at least twice as much than Alessio did. So it looks like he did beat him on the feet. And it just seems like they were going hit for hit, and Alessio did that elbow. Again, not too many guys could have taken that elbow.
Yeah.
That elbow. It was a hellbow, is what they like to call them. That hellbow was nasty. Nasty.
I see people saying that they don't think that Kevin Holland won the fight. I thought he pretty much won round 1 and 3.
I think the argument with fights these close, the arguments can be made, but then that's why you have these other fight factors, and then people like to say the forward pressure. Like, the forward pressure doesn't really mean anything if you're not landing. So you also have to think about the clinch and these other things. And I think Kevin Holland did enough to get the victory in my eyes. I think he did more than enough. It wasn't the most decisive victory, like, he beat him bad, but I think Kevin Holland, of all the exchanges and everything else that happened, I think Kevin Holland definitely was able to get to the body more. Get to the head more, and he was able to utilize that clinch in some aspects of his game. So I think he did his thing. I think he deserved that win.
Moving on to Brian Barberena versus Randy Brown.
Yo, let's just go ahead and say, how tough is Brian Barberena? Let's just go ahead and this man's a tank.
Let's also say walkout song of the night goes to Brian Barberena for Old Town Road.
True. Brian Barberena, he's an exciting fighter. He's a truly exciting fighter. When he comes on, he is a crowd favorite. You know, when he's out there, you can tell it's either going to be a hell of a fight or he's going to end up breaking whoever he's fighting. His last two performances have been pretty good. They've been spectacular. So, interesting. We did miss one fight that was on the undercard, and it was Luis Pena versus Matt Wyman. Now, we haven't seen Matt Wyman in a while. Matt Wyman's been on a hiatus. But I want to say, I know you're a fan of Violent Bob Ross, so that's why I just got to bring this up. That man, I think he's finding a home at 155.
Here's my thing with that fight. As great as I love Violent Bob Ross. My thing was it was a terrible mismatch when you think about it. Because you have a young fighter who was very active against a guy that hasn't fought in a long, long time. The last time he fought, Demetrius Johnson was in the UFC.
Well, that's only up until what? Demetrius Johnson has been gone for about a year now.
All right, even further than that, Fabricio Verdun was champion.
Ooh, see, that was...
You see? Ronda Rousey was in the UFC. Like, let's go ahead
and look it up. Last fight in UFC was March 21st, 2015.
Exactly,
yeah. And he didn't even do that fight because he had to pull out because he had a back injury.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been a grip. So for him to come back against a young fighter, who honestly I would have put Matt Wyman against maybe a legend or somebody that has been in the UFC for a long time.
Yeah.
Just so the skill set is even and the age is close enough and everything like that. The experience is there. Violent Bob Ross pretty much tore him to shreds from beginning to end.
Again, you do see that, like we talk about this all the time, the new age fighters as opposed to the guys who are from the old school.
Yeah.
That being said, I can see what you're saying. The mismatch was there, but it's still a fight, and you show up, and the preparation has to be there. Not to say it wasn't. I just think that it's kind of hard to prepare for a guy on short notice like this, or maybe not short notice, but like you haven't fought in a while. So I think I don't know if anyone else played the fact, but Matt Wyman's been out of the game for a while, and even with back injuries, do they ever heal? We don't see with back injuries, we don't see guys ever really come back the same after that.
Yeah.
That's one of the bigger things. So it depends on what kind of injury the person has. That's how that goes. But I will say Luis Pena I know that's your boy.
He looked great. He looked great.
He
looked great, man.
Great is understatement. That man, he had the striking. He was ready for that fight. He was ready for that fight.
Even on the ground. It got to the ground and Matt Wyman was looking for leg locks and stuff like that. And,
yeah, which is interesting. And even I don't remember that being part of his I mean, I know he has the repertoire for the jiu-jitsu.
He has it.
I don't remember him ever using it like that.
I think he's with 10th Planet, right? He's with 10th Planet. Yeah.
He trains 10th Planet.
Yeah. So I guess it was something that he worked on and tried out for this fight. But Luis Pena and his positioning and able to get out of those positions and he pretty much dominated Matt Wyman.
He did.
Great fight for him. Great fight for him.
He did.
What's next we had?
So I'm going back here to the metrics. Sorry, my computer is acting up. Let's go ahead and get that back. We have the main card. We have the main fight of the night: Chan Sung Young versus Renato Moicano.
Oh, hold on. I want to make this point about Randy Brown, Queens native.
Randy Brown, shout out to you, my man. You definitely put on a hell of a performance, and the stoppage was just The stoppage was just beautiful. I mean, when he saw the game plan of Brian Barbanera, I think we noticed that he'll cover up the head. He'll take the shots to the head. That's not the issue. Right. It's the body. It's the body and the clinch is what we've seen can sometimes lead him to either being knocked out or for him to be TKO'd. And that's what we saw. I think his team or him had a great game plan, and they picked up on that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is this fight, he came out super aggressive in the first round and on. I was surprised by that. I thought Brian Barberena was going to be the one that's going to be aggressive. Well,
Brian Barberena pushes forward. Forward. Not super aggressively like a Justin Gaethje kind of forward, but he definitely pushes forward. He wants you on your back leg. He wants you on your back leg. Nothing more. And so you saw that.
Randy Brown cut the cage. He was aggressive. He started first.
Man, Randy Brown.
The front kicks to the body, it just kept going on to eventually hurt Brian Barberena. And then from there, he closed the show. Very proud of Randy Brown. Good job. I feel like, did we go see Randy Brown fight before? Was he on any of the cards that we saw that we went to? Cough, cough. Was he on the MSG card?
No, he was. Was he? Oh, wait a minute.
I think he may be on the MSG card.
He might have been on the UFC card. Let me see. Did we? No, we didn't see. We decided the day that Bisping versus GSP took place and we watched it, we would go to the next year's. And that's when he fought. The first year they were in Madison Square Garden. That's when TJ Dillashaw beat Cody Garbrandt. And we got that epic picture of TJ, like in his face. So, yeah.
Well, was that pre-EPO or post-EPO?
I'm sorry, I can't understand. I can't understand. Moving on.
Was that? I mean, he was saying the whole. Okay, we're not gonna go into it. All right.
TJ one of the best.
Hey, did you see? I meant to bring this up to you. We were gonna bring up the last show. He was cornering. Who was it? Archuleta. He was cornering Archuleta for that Bellator card.
That's his boy.
I didn't know that. I didn't know when you're serving a suspension, you're able to corner a guy.
Yeah, well, your suspension is only for fighting. That doesn't mean you're saying you cannot legally fight because you're suspended. Think about it like this: you can, if you're suspended from school, you can't walk into the school. Like if you're home suspension, right? You're suspended from class or whatever. You can't go inside the school, but you can go to the playground and watch other kids You know what I'm saying? Like, you can still show up after school and play in the playground with the other kids. You just can't go to school. And that's kind of one of those things you can do. And also, it's another promotion too. I know he's suspended from fighting, but he's not suspended from cornering, anything like that. That has nothing to do, since he's part of that team. What is it called? I believe it's Rain, Team Rain, based off of Mark Muhoz's team that used to be team or gym, sorry, that used to be out there in California, or I guess call it near Colorado or something like that. Bottom line is, you're definitely allowed to coach, and you're definitely allowed to be a cornerman for whatever fighters on your team. You're just not allowed to legally apply for a license to fight in whatever state.
Yeah, I found that interesting. A lot of people were talking about that, during the last week's Bellator card. Was, how was he able to corner? And you just give a great answer. Also, I found it interesting when he was there and cornering, the fans were chanting EPO at TJ Dillashaw show. So it makes me wonder, did perception and his his fans kind of turn on a little bit? Yeah.
Do I, as a fan, I'm just gonna really quick, as a fan, do I agree with the decision he made? No, not. But I mean, as a fan, there's a lot of things that fighters do that you don't agree with, and his is just one of the things that he got caught for doing. So, in all honesty, TJ's wrong, but it doesn't take anything away from who he is as a fighter. Like, we know that he did take EPO on his last fight. Can we prove he taken any other fights? No, unfortunately, we can't. Those test samples, we can't do that. But moving forward, he's not gonna be able to do it again. So now we just have to see how he moves. That's all. And he's still great in UFC 3, EA Sports UFC 3. That man is out of this world. Shout out to Dwayne Bane Ludwig. Anywho, Kevin, Randy Brown, you did it, my man. Queens native, proud of you. Keep it going. Very, very promising prospect in UFC. Very
in the welterweight division as well. In the welterweight division, a lot of promising welterweights coming up. He's one of them.
One of them.
All right.
He is.
So the main event. Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, defeats Renato Moicano.
I did not see that. I mean, I think I talked about this with my brother. My brother was like, Moicano looks like he win. I was like, I don't know. I wouldn't count Chan Sung Jung out just because of the way that fight ended with my boy Yair Rodriguez. Doesn't mean any Chan Sung Jung can bang. He will put you down. That's the thing.
Well, here's my thing. He always looks great. He looked great in the Rodriguez fight. He looked great.
To be honest with you, until he got knocked out, everyone said he was winning the fight. So I don't
exactly. So he looked great in that fight. He beat Dennis Bermudez before that. So he's always looked great. So I didn't really understand the critique of him and wondering if he was going to be the same guy. I thought he was still one of the best featherweights in that division.
Well, when he left the mandatory 2 years in the Korean army, the question is, with 2 years off, we always wonder this: with 2 years off, will anyone be the same? And he kept it up, and I see no change. And that man he's up there again. He's up there again. Now, do you think this takes away from Moicano? I'm very interested to hear, because I know you're definitely behind Moicano. I know he's a great fighter. Not take nothing away from him. Listen, I'm sorry for the loss, but it is what it is. I think Moicano, this is going to be a hard one for him, though. This is the second knockout or the second TKO in a row.
Well, I think the Aldo loss, which was his last one before this one, I think he was great in the first round, and then in the second round, he said he took his foot off the gas, and Jose Aldo, you can't really do that, and he went to the body, and Jose Aldo was killing everybody with the body shots lately.
The ability to land that is hard too. They got to really practice that.
Yeah, so I don't think this is the end for Moicano, but he's gonna have to climb a little bit more. He was ranked number 5 in the division, and now we probably could have said maybe he's 1 fight or 2 fights away from being a title contender.
Yeah,
I would say now he's maybe 3 fights, maybe.
Yeah, it's gonna be harder. I think it's gonna be harder for him now. It's just harder. You can't with 2 knockout losses back to back. It's just harder. Not to say he's not a good fighter, but I don't know too many fighters who with that many losses are able to get a title shot within the next 2 fights. It's just not. It's not usually possible.
Yeah, but speaking of Chan Sung Jung on this, people forget about Chan Sung Jung. I think the casual fans, I think Luke Thomas, he made this point saying that the casual fans may have forgotten about Chan Sung Jung.
Agreed.
But the hardcores didn't. the hardcore still know what Chan Sung Jung's all about.
Listen, man,
and he proved it. That I thought it was a right counter hook at the end of the fight. No, he went for overhand and right, and then
after going under the left. I had to watch the clip 5 times to really understand the amazing boxing that kind of went into that.
Me too.
You saw Moicano. It was just it looked like Moicano was just trying to set the distance.
Yeah.
It looked like his left hand went out. Just like, I don't know if it looped for a hook almost, but it went out. And then you saw Chan Sung Jung plant the left foot, go under, and then overhand. And I was like, the boxing, the IQ even for that is just that read, that little read. But those little reads like that are just like.
And at the same time, Moicano is getting ready to throw it straight. And it's the timing was just perfect where he ducks under it, goes over with the right hand, and then as he's going down, cuts him with the left hand.
It's like he's on his center line, plants the left foot, center line, then cuts this angle this way,
right,
in order to cut back down left, or I guess to cut back down left with the overhand. It was just a fantastic read on Chan Sung Jung's part. The Korean Zombie, again, you're right. A lot of people forget about the Korean Zombie. He fought Aldo.
Before he tore his ACL.
Exactly. Listen, man. He was one of the best. He still is one of the best. He's a solid featherweight. And I would love for him to run it back with Yair Rodriguez, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
No, I don't think that's gonna happen either. I think if you're Chan Sung, I think what's best for Chan Sung Jung, honestly, if the Brian Ortega and Zabit fight don't happen, I would love to see Chan Sung Jung either fight, Brian Ortega or Zabit for that matter.
Yeah, agreed. Well, apparently, did you see the call out after this fight?
I did see the call out.
Then who was the call out? Because I love that matchup right now, because it puts two guys in the winner. It puts the winner in a legitimate position for them to make a case that they can come for the belt. For the 145er.
See, I like that fight. I don't like that fight.
Why?
I like the fight, and we're talking about Jeremy Stephens, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So I like the fight because of the fact that you're going to get a fight where they're going to go at each other. It's going to be, somebody's getting knocked out in that fight.
I don't think we see those fights a lot where we think maybe someone gets finished, but
I think somebody gets finished in that fight.
Agreed.
I think they're both going to stand with each other. Chan Sung Jung is going to be a person that's going to stand in front of you. I don't think Jeremy Stephens is going to take a step back, so it's going to be right in front of each other.
Yeah.
For me, that's a great fight. I'm not being mad that you even do it.
Yeah.
However, I would like to see Chan Sung Jung in a fight where it's a little bit more technical. I would like to see him in a fight with Zabit because of the fact that I don't know where Zabit is at. We've seen him beat Jeremy Stephens, but I don't know where he's at. Chan Sung Jung's a little bit more technical, could do a little bit more of everything. I would love to see Zabit versus Chan Sung Jung or Brian Ortega. Where's Brian Ortega in terms of his stand-up? Because last time we see Brian Ortega, he lost to Max Holloway.
That's true, but then you're right. That's true. Brian Ortega, well, he had to heal, but that's right. That's true. He hasn't had a fight in a while. This is a great fight for him to come back and get his feet wet. We also have to consider another person in this featherweight world, and that's Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett is there as well. Whoever loses these fights or whoever doesn't get paired with anybody, I can guarantee you, Josh Emmett will be one of the people who advocates for a fight against any of these top 4 guys.
All right. You know what? You just answer my question for me. It's your question for me. I want to see Jeremy Stephens against Josh Emmett because you still have that Team Alpha Male
versus the Team Alliance.
Exactly. You still got that rivalry going on with this new generation. Well, not the new generation, but with this featherweight division. You can have Josh Emmett, who is Team Alpha Male, and Jeremy Stephens, who is Team Alliance, go at each other. They're both two, stocky featherweights.
Which is
interesting. Bombs in their hands.
Both are able to actually knock you out at will.
Yes.
At will. Yes. That is the truth. I agree with you that these two have made the read that they said, I'm going to knock you out. And they have done it before. They have done it before.
That's the fight. That's the fight for me.
Yeah,
that's the fight. I'll leave Chan Sung Jung more with a technical fight with either Zabit, possibly even Brian Ortega. If you want to do a Yair Rodriguez rematch, cool.
Sure.
But I think those are 2 fights for me. And then you put Jeremy Stevens against Josh Emmett and have them clash together. Because that fight,
That
fight is gonna be crazy.
Yeah, Josh Emmett's supposed to fight this guy Misrad Betik. He's been yeah, it's a good fight. It's a solid fight. So we'll see how that goes. But you have again featherweight. Max is he's got some work to do. He's got some guys who want that belt.
Question: Would you think about doing a Chan Sung Jung versus Aldo rematch?
It depends on where Aldo's out, because Aldo, I believe, doesn't have that many fights left on his career. I mean, sorry, not his career, his contract. So, and he's looking forward to doing boxing. He's very much looking forward. So, unless they can persuade him, no, I wouldn't do that. Not with a rematch. There's a few people you could. I would say that's one of the fights you could possibly make. I wouldn't say it's out of the question, because that's going to be a good fight regardless. Yeah. I want to say you could do Aldo versus him. You can do Aldo versus. You can't do Aldo versus Holloway 3. That's just not likely. You can't do Aldo versus Frankie Edgar again. That they fought 3 times already. The only fights that are possible to make are either give Aldo another chance for the belt, or you have him fight Chan Sung Jung as a rematch, or you have him fight one of the top 5 guys. But it just does none of it really makes sense, because they all want to be a legend killer. But what if Aldo wins, and then now your stock drops and Aldo takes your place? It doesn't make any sense, because he's on his way out of the promotion, and that's not because of he's getting older and like that. It's just that his contract's almost up. He doesn't have that many fights left.
Yeah, it's very interesting with Aldo. We're gonna switch over to I guess Bellator next, but it's very interesting with Aldo because of the fact that he doesn't have that many fights left on his contract, and he lost against Alexander Volkanovski. So that in that division, there's not really a lot left for him to really. He's not gonna fight. He's not gonna fight for a title anytime soon.
No, not. It's getting too crowded.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put Aldo in probably his last fight against some of the younger guys. I mean, you can to boost some of these names up, but if Aldo beats them and he's still really good,
like the Moicano fight, I think the Moicano fight it ended up hurting Moicano. I think it was a great match. Don't get me wrong, but at the long run, now that Aldo finished him and in the devastating fashion that he did, I mean. Don't get me wrong. It's what do you call that? It's one thing to face Aldo. That's a reward in its own right to even be considered to fight Aldo. Correct?
Yeah.
But to lose to Aldo's, it's rough. You're not the same, and we've seen that to guys who fight Aldo. You're just not the same. Then we have Volkanovski, who's arguably the #1 contender. Truth be told, in my eyes, he is. So, and if I'm Volkanovski, I'm not fighting anybody.
Very true. Honestly, that's something you should think about with Aldo is maybe you look at the lightweight division. Maybe you say, well, maybe we do Aldo versus Cowboy or Aldo versus Conor McGregor rematch. That could happen.
That would ideally. I mean, Conor slept him. Don't get me wrong. But Conor versus Aldo at 155. If Conor, let's just say realistically, if Aldo has maybe 1 fight left or 2 fights left, one of those fights can go to Conor. And if Conor's looking for the payday, and maybe he's looking for a way to get back, and all he has to do is find a way to get back into 155. He just needs a name. Conor doesn't really need that big of a fight. He just needs the name. He needs the name at this point. We know Conor has the skills, and anyone's going to want to fight Conor, but Conor really needs the name.
Yeah.
You don't just put Conor against anybody. You know what I'm saying? Because Conor's not going to waste his time against anybody. And not to say anyone, these people aren't wasteful, but Conor's not coming back for at least maybe upwards of $500,000.
If
that. This man made how much? He made over $1 million per fight for the Floyd fight. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure they're not paying. UFC's not paying the fighters $1 million, but for Conor to come back, you got. So it's like the price match at Walmart. If you can get it here and get it cheap, you can. But if it's cheap anywhere else, we're gonna have to match it. That's what happens. It's just gonna have to happen.
I think Conor's payday went up even more. I think he's at the maybe $2 million is probably the least at this point.
That's money. I'm gonna Google that, but I agree. I think the Conor Aldo fight makes sense. I think because you have Diaz fighting, you already have Diaz fighting Anthony Pettis, so you might as well do Conor versus Aldo at 155. Give them both.
Wouldn't be bad. Yeah, I don't really know what Aldo does next because of the fact that the options are very limited. But that featherweight division again is booming. It's a booming right now.
Yeah, it's that again. We have these divisions that are they're picking up now. These divisions, after a little bit of stagnancy, we're starting to see them revitalize.
All right, switching over to Bellator London. Now, you didn't see this live, right?
I didn't see any of it live. I've rewatched clips. I've rewatched the fight. Some fights, not all fights. Watched some highlights. I've watched some interviews. I was there for some of it, not all of it.
Okay, so here's my problem with Bellator. So the actual card itself started at
Time out. Before we start, I just want to say the McGregor's fight with Khabib in UFC 229. This MFR earned about $3 million.
Yeah, so and then that's not even including the pay-per-view points.
No, it literally says, but with additional paid out. It says with additional paid out bonuses through pay. Sorry, no, it says disclosed fight purse was $3 million, but with additional paid out bonuses through pay-per-view. Forbes estimate that he took home more than $30 million in deals.
And to also put that out, with this new ESPN era, we don't know how to get pay-per-view points anymore.
So that's
now you're behind the paywall.
Yeah, now it's a very big factor of how fighters get paid. So I think it's mostly contractual as opposed to how it used to be.
Correct.
But yes, back to Bellator. It came on at 11 o'clock at night.
No, in the morning. So 11:30 a.m. If you had the Bellator app, which it's not on a Fire Stick, it's not on any of these TV apps. So you have to actually go on your mobile device and actually download. Mm-hmm. So I downloaded the Bellator app and I was able to watch the prelims of Bellator. However, because of the fact that it was in London, and this is my biggest problem. We're in 2019, and yet we're having a tape delay for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Or a fight card. That is insane to me.
Yeah, it's a rough one. That's a rough one. I see what you're saying.
So I have DAZN. You have DAZN, right?
I have DAZN. Right, I don't use it a lot, but I have DAZN.
Right, and I sometimes I don't use it either. But I pay $9. I was one of the people that paid $10 a month for DAZN. Mm-hmm. There's people that pay $20 a month for DAZN.
Yeah.
If you're buying DAZN to watch Bellator, you have to get off a tape delay. That is a problem. That is a huge problem.
Excuse me, Scott Coker. We have a man who just wants to talk to you about how things are being run. That's all. Nothing more.
Well, it's not even just about that. It's just the fact that we're in 2019.
Yeah.
You have the pay-per-view. You have a great fight card going on.
You do.
With a middleweight championship on the line with Gegard Mousasi and Rafael Bato Jr.
Two very big names.
And I can't even watch it live.
Yeah. No, thank you. Don't do that.
And my only way of seeing what's going on is through Twitter or social media. Like that, and I paid a monthly subscription to your service, and you can't even put it on live for what it's supposed to be for?
Yeah.
There's a huge disconnect there.
Yeah. It's an issue.
And not only that, so that's my first problem. The one's the tape delay where I have to wait and see the fight. Okay, fine, no problem, right? I'll watch it today. Look to see the fights. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the main event on DAZN,
which is interesting because the main event usually should go up to the people who purchased it.
And they instead, so what they did was they did this thing where, if you remember, we talked about it earlier. Yeah. The Tenshin Nasukawa and Floyd Mayweather card. Before they did where you get to see Haraguchi and Caldwell fight for the belt on their platform. Yeah. And then you had to, and then on one of their cards, and then you had to be in Japan or whatever to watch. Yeah. Tenshin versus Floyd Mayweather,
which is interesting.
And they did about the same exact thing, except you had to go on DAZN to watch Paul Daly versus Eric Silva, and then you had to go to Paramount to watch You know what I'm saying?
One platform, everybody. One platform. makes it easier for all fans. It's not that we're complaining like because we just don't want to switch, but you have these cards, and to make sure that your customers, or at least the fans who don't have a discrepancy, make sure that you're just consistent. That's all we're asking, nothing more.
Even in saying that, I'm confused about how it went. Like the whole thing with the whole way of doing business is confusing. Now you had a title change with Javier Levanto Jr. pulling up an upset, being the underdog going into that fight against Gegard Mousasi, who's probably one of the best middleweights in the world. But nobody can see it because it's not on the road.
It's not where you said it would be.
It's super frustrating to think about.
Yeah. Good fight though.
If you can see it. I didn't even see the full fight. I only go by the highlights, and great. You have highlights available. Great. At least social media is involved today where you can actually get these results in.
It's true. It's true because this is we didn't have that before. We'd be stuck in the dark ages. We wouldn't know a damn thing.
So we're in 2019 again. Why are we having tape delay? One. And number two, why is the platform that you're asking us to pay for not have all the fights?
Yeah.
Especially a big pay-per-view worthy title fight, which resulted in the title change.
Yeah. You're kind of losing people at that point.
Exactly.
You're gonna start losing people if you don't keep the consistency. I agree. But the fights on the Bellator card were all interesting. We had some really good wins. We had some really good fights. One of the fights I was most excited about, if anything, was the Rafael versus Gegard Mousasi. But I'll let you start off with the fights that you, of course, were more interested in.
Yes, I mean there was only a couple of fights I wanted to see off this Bellator card. It was still a good card. Again, UFC Greenville pretty much stole the day for me because of the fact that one, it was accessible. You could watch it.
Easier.
And then it was you can actually go to ESPN Plus and you can watch ESPN and ESPN Plus card. So it worked out better. By the way, ESPN Plus is better than DAZN.
Yeah, I think ESPN Plus, the reason why they're so successful is because ESPN Plus was already there. So like the DAZN is, I feel like it's newer. It's a lot newer than ESPN Plus because ESPN Plus had so much time to develop and learn the ins and outs of the online replay of any sports that they of course kind of facilitate on their TV show. They've learned how to navigate that kind of market. So now when it comes to accessing, getting online and watching any kind of fight card, or with just having UFC is an addition to ESPN Plus. So it's really not that big of a deal to have it all centered on one specific part of their website. Whereas with DAZN, I feel like they're good, and it's nice to have a fight-oriented, marketing site for streaming, a fight-centered streaming site. But I still they're still working out those kind of issues of whether or not we can broadcast this fight or this fight depending on the promotion. You know what I mean? So I think it becomes the technicalities within the promotion and how they're able to stream the certain fights when it comes to championships and companies and things like that. I think ESPN. Come on now, they're here for forever, like the biggest sports broadcasting thing of all time. So let's be honest, it's known that they were going to have this in the bag.
Again, there's work that ESPN Plus needs to do, like the interface and making sure you can navigate the sites better. But it's way better than DAZN. Yeah. And for that matter, the last thing I'm gonna say on DAZN itself, the next Bellator card is gonna be July 13th. Ooh. That's a long time, and I'm paying a monthly subscription, and yet I'm not getting those interesting fights.
Yeah, you're not getting what you paid for. Yeah,
exactly.
The product is not there.
No big boxing fights coming on soon. Bellator is probably the only big thing that's gonna happen. And that's a featherweight matchup with Julia Budd fighting somebody. Yeah. So again, they really, and especially with this Mousasi title change with Levanto Jr. beating Gegard Mousasi by unanimous decision. I didn't see it, so I can't really talk much about it.
Yeah.
But that should have been on DAZN. That big change should have been on DAZN. Elijah, any thoughts on Bellator London?
I have no thoughts on Bellator. I think I agree with you for most of the part about how Bellator is running it, or I guess how the promotion itself is interacting with DAZN and broadcasting and streaming in general. On my, are we signing off final thoughts on the Bellator card, or are we going to go through some fights?
I literally have nothing else to add to this. I to tell you my frustration with this whole Bellator situation with DAZN and not being able to have them. I mean, we could talk about it. Eric Silva lost to Paul Daly.
It was a good. That was a very Paul. They compared Paul Daly to Mike Tyson at one point in the fight, and I thought it was the funniest thing because if you see how he loads up for hooks, the man's short and stocky.
Yeah,
just like Tyson. Other than that, the fights were good. I don't have any specific fight that's walked out to me or was like, that's awesome. But we did see some people get back in the win column. We did see Rafael Lovato Jr. win, but I'm very interested to see how he goes against like a predominant, like a very dominant middleweight striker. That's who I want to see him fight next. Is a very, 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 because he's a big boy. He's a big boy at middleweight. If you notice, he's a big boy. When he does the ADCC competitions, he of course goes a little bit up in weight, but he's a very big boy at 185. If you've noticed that, he's a very big guy, very big guy. And Masasi usually is a leaner 185er, but definitely a big. Rafael Lovato Jr. is a 185er. He's big. I'm very interested though to see how he fights those like very, very big strikers. Like who is my boy? I'm trying to figure out his name. He trains with Donald Cerrone. Very big kickboxing guy. Joe Schilling. I'm very interested to see how he would face against a guy like Joe Schilling. I'm sure he'd be able to take him down and submit him, but I'm very interested to see how he would fare well against a guy like that. Other than that, that's my sign off. I thought it was good fights, decent.
Again, the whole not having a title fight on the zone.
I know.
It ruined it for me. It totally ruined it for me. That's it on Bellator. Do better. Do better.
Yeah.
Do better.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least. Well, it could be least. BKFC 6. Paulie Malignaggi versus Artem Lobov. Sir, you did not see this whole card live.
Again, I was out and about in Brooklyn last night. But I did see so I was watching every possible clip out there on the internet. I'm probably going to rewatch the fight today. Who knows? We'll see.
You don't need to. Okay, so let me just save you time here. This is my first full introduction with BKFC. I, watched the whole entire card legally.
Yeah.
Wink. I mean, listen, man. I went into this fight card looking for entertainment, and for some degree, I got it. It was not good entertainment.
I think you knew what you were getting in this fight.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the fight card itself. Like the fight card itself, I told my little brother. My little brother wanted to watch BKFC because he didn't know what it was to begin with. So it's supposed to be this interesting thing for me. And $40 or whatever, and we go into it, and it's just not doing anything for me. Like the skill level for me is not really there. Granted, they're good fighters, but it's not like the caliber of fighters you'll see on, let's say, a regular boxing pay-per-view or a UFC pay-per-view. If you want to look at the MMA crossover, a lot of people.
Sorry, go ahead.
A lot of people that were fighting were ex-UFC or ex-boxers.
Yeah.
Chris Leben was on the card.
I know.
Dakota Cochran was on the card.
Yeah. You had some interesting people on this card. I was very interested to see. There was a guy, he used to be in The Ultimate Fighter. I forget his name. Do you remember his name? He was in Johnny Bedford. Johnny Bedford was also on this card. So it was very interesting to see all those people kind of fighting again.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that it's actually bare knuckle kind of devalues the fighting? I think that's what a lot of people are trying to differentiate because you do, like, you're right. You do have these fighters who, they're fighters. That's understandable. They're very good at what they've done. They've either been in the UFC or Bellator, but then they're fighting, and it's not that the same skill level is not there, but you kind of just don't feel that it's the same as if you have the gloves on. So what about that specifically kind of makes you go, not really that interested?
Well, I think it's the quality, right? So the quality of fight that you're getting to BKFC, it's not like it's prime boxers you'll see on, let's say, a matchmaking boxing or a top rank promotion or you name it. Yeah. It's not that quality. You're also not getting fighters that are close to their prime. Some of these fighters like Chris Lieben, Beltran.
Yeah.
Beltran was fighting on his card.
Joey Beltran?
Like, yes.
What?
Yes. Like a lot of these fighters, they're pretty much been washed out of the UFC or washed out of boxing. And then now, it's good for them, I guess, where they make a living.
Yeah.
If you can't make a living out of fist fighting, then what can you do?
That's true. That's what you've been doing your whole life. Why?
Exactly. So, at the same time, though, the entertainment factor was just not there. Honestly, I was bored throughout the whole entire thing. I was on my phone for most of it. Yeah. My head looked up a couple of fights. The Chris Lieben fight for one, that got me interested. Joey Beltran, that got me interested. Other than that, it was just there for me.
Okay, all right, that's fair. I think it's because it's still new. I think they're trying to work out the kinks and try to get those fans in. If I was the head leader in the promotion, I would not tell people you're not going to pay them like you did in that one fight, or decrease their pay. I would just really focus on getting that name out there, getting more fans interested. But the Paulie the Malignaggi fight versus Artem Lobov, I thought it was interesting, but again, this is not something I would have probably wanted to watch.
Well, lucky for you, you didn't have to sit through it. I had to watch all these fights this weekend and try to give you a great sense of what's going on. I will say this, just before we go to this fight itself. Most of the fights weren't that interesting to me. I won't go back and watch them. But I will say, work in progress. Maybe, who knows? The quality of fighters aren't there yet.
Yeah.
The guy that you broke up about, that one that was in the Ultimate Fighter, what was his name?
Johnny Bedford.
He won the lightweight championship there.
Good for him.
Which I don't really know what that means because I don't know if they have a division yet. But
yeah,
that's promise. That's promise there.
That is
and to speak positive about it, the commentators were pretty good. Antonio Tarver was commentating.
Oh, the boxer, Antonio Tarver?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I respect it.
I thought it was pretty good. That commentary was way better than Canelo Alvarez and
I know the recent one, Danny Jacobs.
Yes.
That was
it was way better than that. So kudos to them for at least the commentary was good.
Good.
The presentation was okay. Mm-hmm. Again, work in progress, but for what it's worth, the aesthetics are there.
Okay, good. So then we know it's watchable.
Yes, it's just the quality of fights.
Yeah, just that are not there yet. But I'm sure that's what they said. Well, I don't know. I can't say that's. I'm sure what they said about UFC at first because the first Ultimate Fighter had people tuning in. So
yeah. So Paulie Malignaggi loses to Artem Lobov by unanimous decision. I pretty much scored it the way they seen it. I would have probably gave Paulie one round. I thought he won the second round. I thought Artem won the first, third. No. Yeah. First, third, fourth, and fifth.
So was it good? It was a 5-round fight. That's okay.
Yes. Yeah, it was a 5-round fight. I pretty much thought Paulie, because whatever Paulie, he just looked frozen in there for a lot of the times. Like
I think.
Go ahead.
You're right. I heard that. I heard a lot of I've read comments online, and you're right. That's one of the biggest things I got from this was that Paulie not frozen, but it looked like in some moments there was a hesitation there of what to do in certain scenarios, and I thought that would be the issue for this fight because training for MMA fight and training for a box fight are different. But I can bare knuckle brawling. When you have a UFC fighter versus a boxer, it's easier for the boxer in a boxing setting. But in a bare knuckle setting, you can have the clinch. It's basically like wearing the 8-ounce gloves. It's almost as similar as that. So I feel like I thought the edge might be given to Lobov in terms of just the more comfortability in having and actually fighting in a fight where he doesn't have these big gloves on. Also, I thought one of the bigger things for him was the clinch. The clinch game in MMA is a little bit different, and you can bring that into bare knuckle because you're using your hands. It's not the same when you have these 14 to 16-ounce gloves on.
Well, here's the thing about the fight itself. It didn't really spend much time in the clinch.
Really?
That was the interesting part about it. Was it didn't really spend much time in the clinch.
I thought
as soon as they got in the clinch, they was pretty much broken apart. So it really wasn't even a clinch dirty boxing fight. It was just straight up boxing.
It was straight up hand. Oh, interesting. Then
but what made this fight crazy to think about was just Artem outpointed Paulie.
Yeah.
Who was the boxer. And Paulie would just, like, for most of the part, he was just frozen. He didn't really want to throw a punch.
Yeah.
He would throw jabs to the body, maybe 6 punches per round or whatever. And it was a bad fight. It was a spectacle. It was a bad fight.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're two talented fighters, but I just didn't want to see this, in my opinion.
So I'm glad you brought that up. Why did you want to see it first?
Well, one, I knew I was going out, so that's also one big thing. But the second part was I knew it would be a good fight, but because it's like two different fighters from two different disciplines. But at the end of the day, my interest peaked other places in comparison to this.
Well, I'll tell you why I wanted to watch this fight. I wanted to watch this fight because of the quote unquote bad blood going into this fight.
Yeah.
Because of the interest of getting a boxing champion.
Yeah.
Paulie Malignaggi and Artem Lobov, who is the friend of Conor McGregor, which if you don't know the backstory, this whole fight basically is Conor McGregor's fault.
Basically. This is basically the product of Conor McGregor.
And if you think about it even more, Conor McGregor is now responsible for one of the biggest pay-per-view fights in boxing history with him and Floyd Mayweather, right? Khabib being one of the biggest MMA fights of all time.
Uh-huh.
And now the biggest bare knuckle boxing fight of all time.
Arguably, yeah.
Because this whole storyline came from Conor McGregor and Paulie Malignaggi sparring.
Yeah.
To which Malignaggi couldn't live down.
Yeah.
And it has led to Artem Lobov coming in and saying, I'm going to pick up from where Conor left off and I'm going to fight you bare knuckle boxing. And here we are. And so it was just, for me, it was just weird to see, Paulie Malignaggi get outstruck by Artem Lobov. Lobov.
I know I'm watching too, but I'm watching like highlights at the same time. So I'm looking at it. Just like,
Good. So all this weirdness and stuff like that, I'm intrigued. I want to see it. I want to see what happens. I want to see what the bad blood's going to come about. And then towards the end of the fight, you start seeing them slap hands and stuff like that. I was like, okay, that's a little odd. And then towards the end of the fight, they're hugging it out.
I mean, you know what it is? What I will say about this though?
Where's the bad blood?
Hey, man, relax. We're not gonna kill each other for forever. I think they do have. Listen, you will not like the guy that's across from you as a fighter. You will quite often not like that. However, what you do have to do is on some level give respect to that other guy, or or the woman has to give respect to the other woman. So I think you're right. The bad blood, and at the end of the fight, like from the post fight stuff, you still see him like, oh, like I don't know what the hell happened. The judges was wrong. Like you still see him talking crap, but there's a level of respect that you earn.
We're gonna get to that too.
A level of respect that you earn as a fighter after fighting. Like you've earned someone's respect after going 25 minutes of trying to take my head off. You're like, damn, like that was a tough fight.
You know what? I can agree to that, and I would say, you know what, you're right, and I expect that. I don't expect the post conference stuff like that to lead to you just still hating each other.
Yeah.
However, the promotion was built up off of Paulie Malignaggi saying, "I'm gonna spit in your mother's face."
Yikes!
And I'm gonna.
That doesn't sound good.
And then this is not me quoting. This is not me saying it, but after the fight, I'm gonna piss in your mouth. Like the way it was going didn't end up the results. Like there was the result of them hugging and stuff like that after the fight, and the animosity going into the fight is just too parallel to each other.
It's just like, really, bro.
It's just completely opposite.
Is this what we're really doing right now? Like,
so so like the fight sucked.
Yeah.
And then you feel like it was worth it to watching this fight where they're cool. They're perfectly fine.
Hey man, I don't know what this.
That could be the result of just you going to this fight with each other, and you don't know, the emotions and stuff like that. I don't know that. However, for the viewer that paid to watch this fight,
not knowing anything else but the build up to this fight. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Not knowing anything else.
Yo, that's gonna work. I'm watching pro wrestling right now. Like the way it's not supposed to happen.
Yeah,
this thing's gonna piss in this man's mouth. Like
I think where this reminds me of a Family Guy scene, I believe, in which at some point they're like, "Well, I'm not gonna lie to you, very disappointed." It went something like that. I think one of the characters go, "Okay, well, I'm and walked away."
I'm left like, yo. And granted, I'm glad to piece it up. I'm glad. If the beef was real, I'm glad to piece it up. However, a lot of people bought this fight based off the bad blood, and this is kudos. This is kudos to them if they just marketed it this way. It was based off the bad blood, and yet at the end of the fight, and towards the end of the fight, they're hugging it out and stuff.
Yeah. Kind of a ass backwards thing when you're marketing them hating each other, and then you're marketing Conor McGregor's feud so much. I get what you're saying. I understand the confusion here.
He said he would have slapped. Paulie Malignaggi said he would have slapped Lobov's mom, and said after the fight he's going to piss in his mouth. It doesn't get any more disrespectful than that. And yes, they're hugging at the end of the fight.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
Yeah, it was a bad fight. It was honestly a bad card. If you paid money to watch this fight, then you're a little disappointed. That's all I'm going to say about BKFC.
That's fair. Fair.
But Artem Lobov did beat the pro boxer and Paulie Malignaggi, and pretty much a boxing fight because of the fact that they didn't really go in the clinch to do dirty boxing or anything. It was just pretty much them squaring off against each other.
He said it was just hands.
And for the most part, it was one Artem Lobov the fight was just him being aggressive.
Yeah.
Just Paulie Malignaggi was just walking
backward.
And didn't really know if he wanted to punch or not. So
yeah. Well, that was understand. That's all right. So hey, listen, man. I don't know what to say about that. That just it is what it is at that point, man. I'm sorry.
Don't ever say you're gonna slap somebody's mom and then hug them at the end of the fight. Don't.
That's fair. That is fair. All right, man. Well, I guess we talked about those three. We talked about the UFC card. We talked about Bellator, and we talked about bare knuckle brawling.
That's pretty much the fights this week, man. Yeah. It was, again, even though there was a title on the line for Bellator, the fight of the night goes the fight card of the night goes to UFC and what they did. I think the prelims from the beginning of the prelims to the main card towards the end was a solid card.
You have some this is another fight card where you see some potential stars, and I just think I'm very interested to see who the winners of this fight card in like South Carolina, was it North Carolina? Was one of them. I'm interested to see how these fighters get paired next. I'm very interested because this next from a lot of these fighters, like you have Luis Pena, and then you have Darren Wynn, and then you have Chan Sung Young. A lot for those guys, and KGB as well. You have these people. The next people they fight are truly going to be. They have to be either within the top 10 or closer towards the top 5. With it, maybe even we might start seeing them fight top 5 people. Who knows?
I will say this just this last thing on the Greenville card. Again, a lot of great matchups coming ahead, especially with Chan Sung Jung with that featherweight division. You have a lot of interesting matchups you could do there. We talked about it earlier. I will say the funniest thing of the night is after Chan Sung Jung wins, the translator who couldn't translate for Chan Sung Jung. So you didn't see it live. So Michael Bisping is asking Chan Sung Jung questions. The translator's there. And he's trying to get the translator to say what he's saying to Chan Sung Jung. However, she couldn't understand what Chan Sung Jung was saying. So you got this, like, after Chan Sung Jung would answer, you get this long pause, and she would look at Michael Bisping like this, like, oh my God, I don't know.
I'm not gonna lie to you. He just said he gonna smack you.
I'm sorry, I completely lied on my resume to get this job, And
like that lady who was at actual White House conference who was doing hand signs, and it was like, that's not sign language. That's not sign language. How did she get in here for this?
It was clearly funny to see.
That's actually kind of funny.
Again, you gotta watch it. Chan Sung Jung is talking. He's saying whatever he's saying his post-match speech or whatever. And then the lady is just looking at Chan Sung Jung and looking at Michael Bisping and just didn't know what to say. It's just trying to piece things together.
You getting this because I'm not getting any of this.
That was perfect. That was perfect.
I will rewatch. I promise.
Shout out to that lady. You completed a lot on your resume. You probably did. I don't know how you got that job, but props to you. I hope you keep the job. I hope we see more of you.
There you go, girl.
And there was an 8-second heavyweight win. I didn't see that fight. I can't pronounce his name. I can't pronounce his name.
I won't try that one. I won't try that one.
But props to you, sir. He fought the same guy that fought Greg Hardy.
And that guy won from the DQ. So it's definitely it was a very intense knockout. But he's got some hands. You know who I really want to see him fight next?
Who?
Not Walt Harris is the one that got released, right?
No, it was it's the guy now. Actually, I'm glad you brought this up. He's actually petitioning to face what's his name? The guy that just lost. Chicago heavyweight. Taito Ivasa.
Oh, I think Walt Harris. Let me tell you something. Walt Harris will be fighting within the next 2 years. The guy we're talking about is a Walt Harris. He fought Curtis Blades. Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Look it up for me. Look it up for me while I talk.
Give me one. Okay, talk.
Yeah. So, but the I can't pronounce his name. I'm not gonna butcher his name live on the air. But the guy that beat Alan Crowder in Alan Crowder's hometown. Salute to you. Another new blood in the heavyweight division. And I can't wait to see what's next for him. Also, you got a lot of interesting pieces coming together in these separate divisions.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them. But yeah, Walt Harris is the big ticket, man.
Man, Walt Harris got some hands, bro.
He's gonna be good.
Man,
you looked him up yet?
It's coming. I can't figure out his name. I can't.
Well, look up Curtis Blades' last fight, and that's how
I just found it amongst guys. It's an article about the 7 guys who were released by UFC. And I think this guy's name should be on it. It's not. All right, I'm looking up Curtis Blades. Okay, keep talking.
All right, yeah. So, but yeah, that guy, 8-second knockout in Alan Crowder's hometown. I found it.
Is that where he's from? Yikes. It's always rough. It's always rough when fighters lose in their hometown. And his name is Justin Willis.
Justin Willis. There you go. He was the guy that was talking so much. He had crap about Curtis Blades going into the fight and hyping himself up, and then he gets starched by Curtis Blades. And
he got beat by Curtis Blades badly. I remember that.
Yeah. So that guy is actually positioned to fight Taito Ivasa.
I want to see Taito Ivasa get a little bit more technical. I think we talked about this in the last video. I want to see him get a little bit more technical, and I think if he gets a little bit more technical and a little bit more thought out, and the way he comes in attacks, cuts a little bit more angles. He's a big guy, but I know he can do it because he moves fast. I think he would be dangerous. I just want to go ahead and say that.
Agreed. All right, man. When's the next time we're going to do this live show? Are you going to be available next Sunday?
Next Sunday I should be available, and next Sunday should be after the Ngannou versus Dos Santos card.
Correct, sir.
So that'll be one for the books. That'll be one worth watching. That'll be one that we both are excited for because, quite frankly, those are 2 very good fighters. My brother's also a fan of Ngannou, so we'll see how that one goes.
And then we got to figure out the July. Was it July 9th?
We may have to. Yeah, we might have to because I won't be back. I'll be going to Miami for the July, so we won't be able to do that then, but we can always reconvene the following Sunday and just have a slightly longer show. And
this one's pretty long, so I think we can do it.
That's fair. All right. We have on. Do you want me to read out the card? How you want me to do this? I'm here on your show, so you let me know how you want it.
Well, this is our show.
No, sir. You have the great idea. I am simply the man who tunes the Batmobile. You are the man who drives the Batmobile. You know what I'm saying? It just
I'm glad you said it, not me.
Jerk.
So, please read out the Ngannou versus Dos Santos card for me, please.
This will be UFC Fight Night held in Minneapolis, Minnesota on June 29th. We have for the preliminary card, we have the heavyweights Maurice Green versus Julia Albini. Interesting matchup. Women's strawweight Emily Whitmire, promising prospect versus Amanda Ribas. We have light heavyweight Dalcha Longiambula versus Justin Ledet. Ledet coming off of a knockout loss to Johnny Walker. Very harsh one to watch. Lightweight, we have Jared Gordon versus Dan Moret. Dan Moret's one who's starting to pick up steam, so I'm interested in that, and so is Jared Gordon. We have a light heavyweight fight between Eric Anders back in town for Vinicius Morea. So that's an interesting card. And then on our main card, we have the light heavyweight fight, Alonzo Menefield. And I believe Alonzo Menefield fought on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series.
He did.
He did. He was a light heavyweight, shorter, not a big guy, not a tall guy, but definitely a stockier guy versus Paul Craig. We have the lightweight Drew Dauber versus Marco Polo Reyes. Lightweight Roosevelt Roberts versus Vince Pichel. And Damian Maia versus Anthony Rocco Martin. Very, very, very interesting fight. Jussier Formiga versus Joseph Benavidez at flyweight, Tyreece, at flyweight.
Yeah, they didn't kill the division yet.
They didn't kill that yet, but they're still going strong. And then we finally have our heavyweight fight at 265 being the weight limit. Francis Ngannou versus Junior Dos Santos.
And that's on big ESPN, right?
That is on ESPN, my good friend. That is on ESPN.
That's a solid card.
That's a solid card. It's a card that has the position to move people to certain heights. So you have the Drew Dauber versus Marco Polo Reyes. You have Dauber as a guy who's been in the lightweight division for quite some time. He gets these string of wins and then loses. So we're hopefully this is his first fight back where he's going to win. So this is his first fight back after losing to Daniel Dariush. So we have that, and then we also have Damian Maia versus Anthony Rocco Martin. And we have it's a good fight because we have the promising of Antonio Rocco Martin, who was a lightweight at one point in the UFC and then moved up, and he's had very good success in welterweight. And the last fight for Maia was against Lyman Good. So, and that was a win. He did have a few losses, but he picked up a win over Lyman Good. So we'll see what happens.
And that sleeper fight for me on that card is going to be Alonzo Menefield versus Paul Craig. That's a sleeper card.
That's a good one. Paul Craig is a solid fighter. He's been tippy and toeing with certain wins and certain losses, but he won his last fight, so I'm interested to see how he comes back with this one.
And lastly, Ngannou, it seems like to me he's getting a big push, and there's a reason why he's on this big ESPN card for me. I think people are really looking at Ngannou, and he recently did I think it was a promo ad or whatever for
NBA.
Some NBA. Yeah, he did see it with
I did.
Him being the long lost brother of Zion Williams.
Yeah. I thought it was funny. Kind of funny. That was cool. It was cool. I like that. Shout out to Zion for being the number 1 draft pick.
Well, I mean, he didn't go to the Lakers, so I really don't care. But it is good to see Francis Ngannou get a push like that. And it was cool to see.
It is. It was hard. That loss to Miocic is hard. I don't think no one's been the same after they've lost to Miocic. I don't think anyone's been the same.
But man, he's bounced back. He's definitely bounced back, and he's gonna be one of those guys that after this fight, if he beats Dos Santos,
arguably could be one fight.
Yeah.
You think so?
I think after this, he's no more contender.
Well, Dos Santos has put on a string of victories, which makes the argument of these two fighting each other would definitely be interesting. But let me look up the heavyweight. You continue to talk about these two and why you think it is.
So for me, if Ngannou beats Dos Santos, he would have then beaten Curtis Blades, who many consider to be one of those guys that's going to be next.
Mm-hmm.
He would then beat Cain Velasquez, who people pegged to be, if he beat Ngannou, he's going to get the number 1 title shot after him.
Yeah.
If he beats Dos Santos, a former champion who's on a winning streak, who has beaten several of these guys, Derek Lewis included.
I think you're right. I think there is no one else. So I'm going to read you the top 10 of the UFC's heavyweight division. We have Shamil Shamil Abdurakhimov. Then we have, that's 10. We have Alexei Olenek at 9. We have Cain Velasquez at 8. We have Alistair Overeem at 6. We don't have a 7th place yet because Alistair and Volkov are tied for the same spot. So if there is a potential matchup between those two, we could see a guy entering at 6 or 7, depending on those. Then we have Derek Lewis at 5, Curtis Blades at 4, Junior Dos Santos at 3, and Ngannou at 2, and Stipe Miocic as number 1. So in theory, the winner of Dos Santos versus Francis does fight next for the title. You're right.
Exactly.
Unless we see Cormier retain and Jones go up. That is the only other fight. That is truly the only other fight.
That's a if. That's a big if.
That's a big if.
Because you gotta get past, one has to get past Santos, another gotta get past Stipe again. So
those are hard fights. Those are
hard fights, but I mean, you're right. But I definitely do see, especially with John Jones saying that he has no intentions of going to heavyweight anytime soon.
I do we see Cormier retiring potentially,
and we see we said about before with John Jones. There's so much work he could do at light heavyweight with all his contenders coming up.
Yeah.
That he really doesn't really need to go to heavyweight right now. He can to cement his name even more, but he has some work to do at light heavyweight.
He does. He does have some work to do at light heavyweight. I agree with that.
All right. So that is next week, Carl. We'll be here on next Sunday to cover it all. I will say one thing before we close. News and notes. Anything that caught your attention this week?
No. Well, not really caught mine. I did see Robert Whitaker and Adesanya is on. That has been scheduled officially this week.
Good job, sir.
Because Robert. Yeah, listen, man. I'm trying to be like you, man. I need to be honest. I gotta come and compete. This is not. We're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
There you go.
I just want to say, Robert Whitaker. Actually, if you type in right now on your computer, laststylebender.com, thelaststylebender.com, it'll go straight to Robert Whitaker's page because he purchased the URL. He's so petty. He is so petty.
That is fantastic.
I could not help but cry when I saw that. I was like, wow. I knew Robert Whitaker was funny, but like, it's interesting too with Robert Whitaker because you have this guy with so many setbacks, but he's still determined to be a champion. And aside from, I still want to see Yoel Romero versus Robert Whitaker 3. I don't think this fight's over. But then I don't think that's over. But we have to get Yoel past Costa, and we'll see. But bottom line is that was one of the biggest things I saw this week, and I had to tell you. I wasn't going to text it to you. I had to bring it up on the show. I typed it in today, and it actually worked. I'm not going to lie to you. It goes straight to the Reaper Robert Whitaker's page.
That is freaking hilarious. That's freaking hilarious.
You also see Jones getting a lot more Instagram bumping up. You see him with just like maybe even stills of him practicing or just flowing with his coach. So you are seeing a lot of news with him. You are seeing some news with fighters in the recent, and then you're also seeing a lot of media regarding Daniel Cormier and Conor McGregor on YouTube. You're starting to see these like mini documentaries about their lives. So I don't know. Check it out. It's some of them are pretty good. I've watched a little bit of the one with Daniel Cormier. Don't get me wrong. I'm not the number one fan of him. I prefer Jones over him, but I respect the hustle that the man had, and he's arguably one of the greatest UFC fighters of all time.
I will do that, sir. My news and notes. Good on you, Elijah. Good on you. A little deep dive in there.
Let me tell you something. I drag him to deep waters. It's not a race. It's a marathon. As my boy Holloway would say. That's my boy. Let me tell you something. When these guys get in the ring, they just can't. They can't keep up. It's a marathon. I will drag you to deep. This is what I tell my friends when we play UFC, EA Sports, UFC 3. Is you could knock me silly from beginning to end of the first round. You knock me silly beginning to end of the second round. We can go to the fourth round, knock me silly. But that fifth round, I'm dragging you to deep waters, and you will drown, sir. You will drown.
Well, I think I got you beat this time because you didn't even mention this part. So, Sugar Sean O'Malley pulled up a UFC 239. See, you forgot that bit of news. I was surprised you didn't bring it up.
But this was for you to do, not for me. So go ahead.
Well, I mean, Batman to Robin. So Sugar Sean O'Malley gets pulled off the UFC 239. This is supposed to be the John Jones versus Santos big card international fight week.
Yeah.
again, the UFC puts him on this big card. He was on the I believe he was on the Khabib. He's on the Khabib versus McGregor card. Got pulled off of that one, and then he's pulled off of this one now. Two big fight cards where to get most exposure, he gets pulled off. For Austrian, the same contaminated substance that he already served suspension for.
But the level was trace amounts. So I'm interested to see how he's pulled off the card. It's a temporary suspension, if I believe. That's the article that we read. But I'm interested to see how they proceed, because if this is indeed, he said, we don't know NSAC or anyone else. No one's released any information. But all we know is that he said that it's a lower amount than they found the last time. So in theory, it's nothing that would give him a performance enhancing edge.
No, yeah, and USADA made a statement saying that the amounts that he had would have given him.
That's where I read it. Sorry, it was USADA that said it. Sorry, not him. Then it was USADA.
Yeah. Well, he even
his post on Instagram. I saw his post on Instagram. That was the one that I read.
Either reposted it or made a comment as well that it had no performance enhancing benefit. But Nevada wants to investigate it more, so that's why they're temporarily suspending him. He's not suspended from USADA because he already served the suspension, and it's already been seen that it's
NSAC, right? NSAC is the one who's suspending him. Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and people are saying, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. People are saying, well, they let John Jones get away with it, and John Jones this, John Jones that. What are your thoughts on John Jones? How the UFC handled John Jones and him, leaving, not going to Nevada and going to Los Angeles? Because I have my own opinion on
that. I don't think they're going to move the card for Sean O'Malley. Let's just go ahead and get that out there. They're not going to move this card for him. It's just it doesn't make any sense. 2, I think it's none of John Jones' business what happens to other fighters, but on some level, maybe he can become an advocate for things like this. Maybe he can say or maybe I don't know if it's happening. Maybe it should happen where you have him talking to Sugar Sean O'Malley, them meeting up and talking about how to get around this. Because I don't think Sugar Sean O'Malley probably took it intentionally, but it's a trace amount. And with things like that, we see John Jones got the okay to fight, but in a different state. So why not have Sugar Sean O'Malley pushed to a different state? Now, I think the reason why John Jones was switched at last minute is because they already knew the findings were there and all that stuff. So they were like, okay, just let him fight in another state. We can do that. I think that was one of the options. But with this investigation going on, I don't think we're going to see that here. I think we do see O'Malley is going to be off this card and he fights sometime this fall. I think that's when he comes back. I don't think this is going to stick for him right now. I don't see him getting another suspension, truth be told. I do see that this is going to keep him from fighting from this card that he's temporarily suspended from. And my hopes is that hopefully the investigation proves that it's not that bad and he can still fight Chito Vera, because that would have been a fantastic fight for either of these gentlemen. Or we see him, this does go a little bit longer and it goes into the summer. He has to not fight. And then the fight between him and Chito Vera gets pushed to the fall. That's fine. That's fine. But I don't see this sticking for him. I don't see him getting another suspension in the long run.
Well, if the UFC, if things to work out, you could put Sean O'Malley in the card with Daniel Cormier. That's still a big fight card.
True.
That's still a very big fight card.
If the investigation takes even longer than that, you still have the fight card Poirier. You got to fill that fight card up.
Well, that's in Abu Dhabi. I don't know if Sean O'Malley is the perfect place to put in Abu Dhabi, but I could definitely see it.
Why not? Huh? Why not?
Well, I mean, the fighters that they're putting in, there's a lot of fighters that are not a lot of no names.
Yeah.
If you look, it seems like it's people more in that region than anything.
I see what you're saying. You're a little bit bigger in name. That's fair. Yeah. I understand that.
You could save him. You could save Sean O'Malley for a bigger card.
You could also save this for a fight night. You could also have this for a fight night. I mean, it's taken off of. Don't get me wrong; it's definitely pay-per-view worthy, but you can have this for a fight night in the main event, not as a main event. Sorry, on the main card.
Agreed. But with Sean O'Malley and the whole John Jones situation, for me, several things stick out to me. One, they already knew in advance, like you said, about John Jones, and so they got the jump on moving the card instead of waiting for Nevada to say that they want to suspend him. So that was one. That was one thing that stuck out to me. Yeah. That they pretty much knew, okay, we're going to move before Nevada comes in and say something.
That's
one. Two to that, there's going to be, not everybody's going to have the same luxury. Jon Jones has the money in order to afford these lawyers and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure Sean O'Malley does, but it's still a difference.
Even if he does have the money, it's not the same. You're right. It's truly not the same. In the long run, it's going to end up hurting him. For Jon Jones, it hurt him. It hurt him because he lost this. It doesn't. For Jon Jones, it doesn't hurt him though to pay all that money for the lawyers because right now it's about cementing the legacy. So if it keeps his legacy, that's fine. But for Sugar Sean O'Malley, paying all this money just to end up broke and not be able to do certain things. Not to say he will be broke, but it's expensive to fight these kind of cases and to have the people represent you and to make sure that then the Nevada State Athletic Commission is not trying to lowball you. You know what I mean? So it can be. And I hope UFC does have a backup plan because I truly don't think he did it.
And I don't think he did it either. I think with Sean O'Malley, I don't think he's one of those fighters going to have a problem fighting this.
No, I don't think so either.
We have to address that there are other fighters that don't have the luxury that Sean O'Malley or Jon Jones have that are going to be dealing with these problems.
They kind of just have to take this suspension. You know what
exactly.
I mean? They kind of just have to take the suspension.
From that point, I get the whole Jon Jones and why Jon Jones gets this treatment or why Sugar Sean O'Malley will get this treatment because other fighters are going to face the same situation.
Yeah,
and they're not going to have the benefit of the doubt like they expect.
No, they're not. They're really not.
And to end on this note, I will say this: you are getting a lot of people with contaminated supplements, and USADA is doing a better job in dealing with it. Before, brought up the case of what's the guy's name that fought it for so long? Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett is one who they did a horrible job with.
Well, apparently, he also signed in Bellator.
Yeah, he did. He did, but he was another person that faced trouble with USADA, and there was another Tom Lawler. Tom Lawler. Another person they had trouble with USADA. So, but I am seeing now on the positive side, USADA is doing a better job at handling these cases, and it wasn't USADA that came out and said we're suspending Sean O'Malley for 2 years. It was them understanding it's the same contaminated supplement, but Nevada came out and said we're going to take a suspend you for a minute. So that is an important note to note there is because of the fact that USADA did not suspend O'Malley.
No, they didn't.
Nevada suspend O'Malley. And Nevada and USADA actually came out and said, this is the same thing we've been working with before. And you always served this time.
Yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, it's important to know who's suspending who. We don't
exactly.
just finger. I agree. Exactly. I'm interested to see what happens.
All right, Elijah, anything else we should share here? Or we still
No, man. I was excited to be on the show again. So, hey, as long as we don't replace me as a co-whatever I am, I'm okay.
Well, man, listen, we
make no promises.
We make no promises. You're about to be in Miami for the Jon Jones fight. It's a big fight card. I don't know what to do with you.
I come back, you get a new person to talk to. They're getting paid. I'm like, wait, we're getting paid for this?
Exactly.
That's a thing.
See, you're on the beginning stage. We're still trying to get better and try to do more with this.
Yeah,
so it's just the beginning.
So he's like, they're definitely holding your paycheck.
We'll talk about it later off air. All right, man. I'm signing off. We've done about 2 hours of this. I'm done with Bellator on DAZN. Figure that out. UFC Greenville was great. BKFC, bare knuckle boxing. It'll be a long time before watching the bare knuckle boxing card. That's all I have to say on that.
Agreed.
Elijah, thank you for coming on here.
Take care, Gabe.
Signing off, my name is Tyriece Simon with Elijah Jones. This is the UFC /BKFC /Bellator London review, and we're out.